Now I would like to invite Engineer Iqbal Hashmi, Director Operations, the Pakistan Academy of Engineering, to present his views on global competition in microprocessor industry.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So you are listening to me?
Yes.
Bismillah.
Okay. With the permission of Mr. President, I would like to start my presentation. So topic of my presentation is global competition in microprocessor industry. And I am going to cover following topics. Basically, my topics are divided into two areas: microprocessor technology and global competition in microprocessor markets. So first of all, I will briefly discuss that what is microprocessor technology, because our learned speakers from other countries, they are already covering this topic. So I will briefly cover this. What is a microprocessor and what are the types of microprocessor, what are their uses, and what are the technological developments so far in this area, and Moore's law, which is famous in microprocessor industry, and what are the generations of microprocessor up till now. And then also I will discuss microcontroller, the difference between microprocessor and microcontroller, so that when I will be discussing global competition in microprocessor market, then we will understand that why we need to differentiate these two. And some future trends as well we will discuss. So this is the first part of my presentation. And in the second part of my presentation, I will basically cover the commercial aspect of the microprocessor industry, where it is heading towards. And of course, the main influencer of future direction is Chips and Science Act 2022 of USA, which will shape the competition in future. So my focus will be on this Chips and Science Act 2022 as well. And with reference to this act, I will discuss different scenarios which may happen in future. So there are some good news and there are some bad news as well. So I will discuss both of them. So microprocessor technology, if we see that what is a microprocessor technology, then this is a block diagram of microprocessor technology, which is based on basically arithmetic logic unit, control unit, and register array in alphabetical forms A, B, C, D, E, F, like. And it takes instructions from input device and performs through arithmetic logic unit and gives you output. And it uses external memory, RAM and ROM both. Compared to that, microprocessor is a self-contained unit which has both processing as well as memory. So there are basically two types of microprocessor, RISC and CISC. RISC processors are IBM RS6000 and the latest one is IS64. And CISC processor, that is complicated instruction set compute processors, which are Intel 386, and now we are in the era of Pentium and i5, i7. And there are special processors which are used these days, particularly Intel Math coprocessor was in common use. Now graphical user interface and voice recognition systems, these two also require special processors. So there is a difference between different types of microprocessor, RISC and CISC, and the basic emphasis of RISC is on software, and the basic emphasis of CISC is on hardware. So in RISC, you can process a small number of fixed length instruction on a single cycle, whereas in CISC, you can process large number of instructions, but it may need more than one cycle. And RISC uses heavy usage of RAM, whereas CISC is more efficient in the usage of RAM. There is debate in the literature that which is better, RISC or CISC. So that debate goes nowhere because it is always application specific. Some applications are good for RISC and some applications are good for CISC. And according to the applications, these systems are developed. And now there is one more development, that is RISC-V. RISC-V is basically an open architecture system, and this will pave the way for open competition in the market. These are some uses and applications of microprocessors. These are used in frequency counters to measure frequency in electronic devices, and function generators, different types of function generators like sine curve or a tooth curve, and different types of curves are generated through function generators. And there are frequency synthesizers as well, which synthesizes different voices and identifies frequencies. And also, so in instrumentation, spectrum analyzers are used. And in medical instrumentation, these microprocessors are widely used. In communication, there are a lot of applications in telephone, television, railway, local area network, wide area network. All these communications are used. Also in office automation, right now I am using a Microsoft PowerPoint. So all these office automation and publications, these microprocessors are used. And there are a lot of consumer products in which these microprocessors are used. This is the technological development history of microprocessor, which started from electromechanical computers, and now we are into the era of integrated circuit. And in fact, we have passed that integrated circuit era as well. And now the working is on human brain and mouse brain, because mouse brain mimic human brain. So experiments are on mouse brains. And the scientists are using neural network to develop artificial intelligence softwares and hardwares, and that will work on the pattern of human brain. So that will have more capacity and power. And the famous Moore's law is basically the number of transistors incorporated in a chip will approximately double every 24 months. That will of course increase cost benefit and price reduction. But there is also a discussion in the literature that Moore's law is over, and it always comes after a decade that Moore's law is over. But now the scientists are working on more technologies like nanotechnologies, so that this continues, that number of transistors etched on a wafer increases with the passage of time, as the Moore's law say. In 24 months, and at some point you will read 18 months as well. So these are the different generations of microprocessors. It is basically a development of 4-bit microprocessor to 64-bit microprocessor. And these are different generations of the microprocessors. And the microcontroller is a self-contained microprocessor in which there is RAM and ROM also, so that it may perform a particular function. And in most of the home appliances, like our refrigerators, televisions, and cars, we use microcontroller. This is the difference of microprocessor and microcontroller. And the major difference is that microcontroller is self-contained. It has its own RAM and ROM. These are some future trends and technology in microprocessors. The focus of the research is carbon nanotubes. Carbon nanotubes are basically electronics that can be made in 3D stacks. And these are basically single layered carbon atoms, tubes, which will bring memory and processor closer to increase the rate of computation. And also work is going on optical quantum and quantum theories, and this will basically go into the area of quantum physics, And right now, experiments have been done to transfer atoms from one place to other place, and more work is going on this quantum leap. And also, as I explained, that there are work on neural network as well, and deep learning. Deep learning is a combination of a neural network and artificial intelligence, giving more capabilities to computer. And of course, AI or softwares are becoming more intelligent. So more coding jobs will be done by AI softwares, or at least coding jobs will be assisted by AI softwares, which is happening right now. And also peer-to-peer streaming these days, since we acquire data from the source, and data analytics is the science which is shaping competitive advantage of the organization. So in peer-to-peer streaming, now it is possible to use graphic processing units so that pictures and videos can also be shared in real time. And more work is going on untrackable infrastructure, because every company wants to safeguard their systems from hackers. And more work is going on graphics, videos, animations, films, and data analytics. So this is a brief of the discussion on technologies which are going in microprocessor. And that is basically to develop a background for my discussion. And my discussion is basically focused on microprocessor markets and growth in microprocessor markets in future. So this is the top 10 largest global microprocessor companies in the world. You can see that 7 out of these 10 companies is from USA. USA is dominant player in this market, and particularly at the high end of the market. And Taiwan specialty is on semiconductor wafers. Wafers are the surface on which IC circuits are etched. So 90% of wafers are made in Taiwan. Basically, what US has done, that US has transferred low-level jobs to all over the world. And they are basically focusing on high-end jobs and high value addition. And also there is a Korean company, Hynix, which specializes in memory chips. Otherwise, you can see that the American company dominate the market, and this is more obvious from this pie chart. USA right now holds 61% of the market, $316 billion market. 61% of this, which is approximately $200 billion, is held by USA. And close to that is 17%, which is held by Korea, which is $52 billion. And Korea is close with Taiwan, which is $45 billion. So you can see that in this market, the most efficient player in the market is USA. Why? Because you can see that their revenue is around $200 billion, but assets deployed is only $300 billion. Compared to that, if you see Korean, they have deployed $304 billion and they get revenue of 52. So their asset turnover is 1/6, whereas compared to that, asset turnover of USA is 66%. So asset turnover of USA is higher. And why asset turnover of USA is higher? Because major strategic focus of America in the past was to outsource manufacturing. And when they outsourced their manufacturing, they were not having plants, so they were having lean assets. So they were having more return on assets compared to any other country in the world. And compared to that, if you see at the Korean model, then the Korean model is more towards having manufacturing plants and assets. And rightly so. Why? Because Korean market is dependent upon the business from USA. So they must have their specialized production facilities. and also they are more competitive in smartphones and mobile markets. And since they are following the leader, why? Because Apple comes with the idea, with the market, and capitalizes on that. And Korea is the second best option to duplicate those mobiles. I don't think duplicate is the right word, but I would say they follow the leaders. So that's why Korean strategy is more on assets and American strategy is more on design and marketing. In terms of number of employees, if I say, if you see, that's why number of employees of USA is also very low compared to their business. Their business is 61%, but number of employees is 43%. Compared to that, if you see compared with Korea, their revenue is 17%, but their number of employees is 46%. And that is also because they are focusing on manufacturing more. Okay. So now we are in the era of Industry 5 revolution in microprocessor industry. And this is a combination of biological technology, digital technology, and physical technology. And biological technology is in use in computers as well. So we are basically in this era where human interaction with computer has a blurred interface, and exactly we cannot define where human interaction has stopped and computer interaction has started working. They are working in combination. And the second aspect of this biological technology is that scientists are working on neurons, artificial neurons, to develop neural network. Now, global microprocessor business issue. Number one issue was espionage. And because of this espionage, what happened that America has taken protective measures. And there was a famous case of a mobile company in which they were charged for espionage, spying in America, and they were banned from America, they were fined, and that is a famous case of a mobile company. As a result of that, in the previous era and this Joe Biden era, they have taken protective measures, and shortly I will discuss that. And there was also an issue during COVID, which also gave a wake-up call to US policymakers, and that was supply chain disruption in COVID. And because of supply chain disruption, their automotive manufacturing, their white goods manufacturing, and their all other manufacturing suffered just because not enough microprocessors were available from rest of the world to assemble. So that disruption also gave a wake-up sign to US. And there were segmental shortage as well. There were some shortages in some segments and there were not shortages in other segments. There were particularly shortage in automotive sector just because of few dollars of microprocessor. And that was a great concern for US. Why? Because in US market, in transportation, automotive sector is a dominant sector. And also there was a general feeling in US among policymakers that they will lose competitive advantage if they will go with corporate greed. They called it corporate greed. What multinational companies were doing, that they were outsourcing their manufacturing in US. And with lean assets, they were leveraging and they were making more profit. But in the process, they were losing competitive advantage to other countries. And that was also happening that because of technology dilution, and other countries were learning faster. And there are previous examples from the market in the past as well, where US was inventor in a particular area, but lost competitive advantage very soon. Television is one example in which the last television was made in USA in 1978, and then television manufacturing was stopped in USA. And now only special purpose televisions are being made, high resolution televisions are being made in USA for fewer applications. And also there was technology dependence, partly on other countries. And for other countries, there is technology dependence on US, and that is very disproportionate. That is something global leaders need to address, that this disproportion technological advantage may grow further after this Chips and Science Act 2022. And also there were concerns in America, concerns was raised in America that TRIPS and TRIPS violations are being done by many countries all over the world. That is trade-related intellectual property rights and trade-related intellectual manufacturing rights. And Americans were not happy with this situation. So because of all these business issues, Americans came up with Chips and Science Act 2022. And this is basically the Chips and Science Act is successor of United States Innovation and Competition Act, which was passed during Donald Trump's era. And CHIPS is basically creating helpful incentives to produce semiconductors. So it is very obvious that what this act is all about. This act is more than 1,000 pages act, very comprehensive act, and its focus is on science and technology, and particular focus is on indigenous microprocessor manufacturing, because indigenous microprocessor manufacturing of US has fallen from 40% to 12% in 2020. Total share of US companies has increased. Total share of US companies is 61%. But today, US manufacturing is 12%, and that is causing concern in USA. And USA in 1984, in a strategic study, they decided to focus on 35 industries, and microprocessor was one of the major area. And they are thinking that they have lost their control in this area, so they want to increase their robust manufacturing base in this area. And also they want to avoid supply chain disruptions, which happened during COVID. And this also happens when there is a boom in the market. When there is a boom in the market, then there is a general shortage of microprocessors, particularly for the companies who are not manufacturing them. So USA is basically going to invest $250 billion in semiconductor industry and research and development industry in next 5 years. And why it is so? Because in America, it is more than $20 trillion GDP country. 1% of the GDP was spent, 2% of GDP was spent on research and development, which fell to 1% in last 5 years. And that was also a point of concern. So government is spending this money. Spending this money to boost research and development, and also to give incentive to their manufacturers and corporations to do ensuring, bring manufacturing back, bring research and development back to USA. And this has already created 642,000 jobs in manufacturing sector, and soon it will create more jobs because more manufacturing is coming back to US. General Electric, their giant, their conglomerate is coming back to US, and conglomerates are not very common in American business models. Therefore, they basically specialize in one business. That is their business model. Conglomerate you will find in Korea, you will find in India, you will find in Japan, but not in US. Very few conglomerates are there. So even conglomerate like General Electric is coming back to uh, US. And this focus is not only on chips, but the focus is also on going back to moon and beyond and taking control of the atmosphere and satellites and everything. That too is part of the plan. And the most important part for the rest of the world is that they are putting a 10-year ban prohibiting from producing chips more advanced than 28 nanometers in China and Russia. The recent development is still 4 nanometers. And this development is at a halt just because of electron jumping, and it is not going further. But America has put a ban at 28 nanometer, not 4 nanometer. It means China and Russia will not be able to take advantage of those technological developments until and unless China and Russia embark upon a journey of rigorous and similar research and development program. So the theory of competitive advantage and comparative advantage, US was the #1 promoter of these two theories. And these two theories kept third world at a poor level. Why? Because the focus of these two theories is to do what you can do best. And since third world missed the bus of technological development, so therefore third world is mostly dependent upon agriculture and primary industry. And developed countries are more focused on industries, and their products are not perishable, so they can manipulate the market as well, and they are thriving on that. So there is a big gap between north and south just because third world was forced to follow theory of competitive advantage and theory of comparative advantage, because in the opinion of economists, these were the best theories for third world to develop. Third world didn't develop. And now since US is facing issues, so they are now pursuing protective regime instead of open competition. So what benefits USA will get from this this law, this Chips and Science Act 2022? USA will go inward focus. If you look at the history of USA switched from inward focus to outward focus. Now, since USA has debt of 133% of GDP, which is the highest in the world, and now they understand that they need to do their economy right. So they are more inward focused now. Compared to USA, Russia has 18% debt compared to GDP. So compared to GDP, USA is the most debtor nation in the world. And to come out of this situation, they need to be inward focused. So from the perspective of USA, this is the right direction for USA that they are pursuing. And since when you outsource manufacturing, automatically services are also outsourced. Jobs are also outsourced. And when you insource this manufacturing, then jobs are back, services industry growths are back. So based on this hypothesis, they are bringing manufacturing back to USA. And that will also increase their tax revenue, and that will increase their skill enhancement. Their skills will be enhanced. And there is serious shortage of production, project management, and planning skills, and manufacturing skills, and skills related to manufacturing. There is a general shortage in USA, and that will remain so. That's why in this act, America has allocated budget for skill enhancement as well. And they have also allocated budget for growth of innovative and entrepreneurial culture in USA, and that is much needed to create jobs and to sustain their competitive advantage. Major issue for US corporations is that they manage their profits very smartly. And one of the practices, which is illegal, but they do, some companies do, I'm not saying that all companies do, but they are involved in a smart transfer pricing. By transfer pricing, they transfer their profits to such countries where tax rates are low. And as a result, they pay lower taxes. And in the same process, they transfer their profit as well. So this will help Inland Revenue Department to curb transfer pricing practices and bring profits back to USA. And there is also one another practice of US corporations, and that is US corporation is basically being managed by loans of sister concerns abroad. And why they are doing so? Because there is no tax on loan financing. So their equity percentage is smaller in their home country and equity percentage is higher in rest of the world. So that situation will be reversed. Since the growth is they are targeting to very aggressive growth, that may result in a rising interest rate and corresponding rising inflation rates. And that will also happen because some specialized jobs which will be required abundantly are highly paid as well. So consumers' power will grow stronger, although there will be increase in prices as well. So now I will shift to this situation, particularly in the perspective of USA and China, because this act has been enforced due to one major reason, and that is China. America is not comfortable with the growth of Chinese in high-end market. Okay, so game theory was developed by John Nash. If you have seen the movie Beautiful Mind, then that is the story of John Nash. He basically developed game theory. And game theory is applicable in duopoly situation when there are two major players in the market. And as I have shown you in the earlier slide, that there are other players in the market as well, but still two major players in this microprocessor market are USA and China. We can say that USA is at the high end of the market and China is mostly catering the middle and lower end of the market, but still they are the two major contenders in the market, and China is striving hard to go into the high end of the market as well. Okay, so is it a zero-sum game? It is a negative sum game, or is it a surplus game? We can understand that through game theory. Game theory is a very simple analysis when in a market there are two players. So these two players, the best strategy for them can be that they can go with cooperative strategy. USA cooperate with China, China cooperates with USA, and with this cooperative strategy, both of them will dominate the market and both of them can share the profit equitably and they will stay better off. But since they do not trust each other, so they will not go for cooperative strategy, they will go for competitive strategy. And as a result of competitive strategy, they will be in a lose-lose situation. This will not be a zero-sum game. This will be a negative game, and this will not be a surplus game. This will be a surplus game in the short run, but in the longer run, both will lose. Okay, so This is a microprocessor market. As far as US is concerned, for US, it is a monopoly market. For the rest of the market, it is imperfect market, but in most of the cases, it is a perfect competition. And even if it is not perfect competition, it will move in the direction of perfect competition for the rest of the market. And for US, if their research and development will be in the right direction, they will have monopolistic hold in this microprocessor market. And when there is a monopoly or duopoly, then for initial quantity till quantity Q, demand remains relatively elastic and the manufacturer earn economic profit. If they can make only quantity Q1, then they will make economic profit. The rectangle you can see P and P1 rectangle is their economic profit. There is a difference between economic profit and normal profit. Normal profit is equal to bank rate, bank interest rate. And economic profit is over and above that bank rate, and that happens because of market imperfection. Since this act will create market imperfection to the advantage of US, so it seems that in the long run, they will have monopoly in this market and they will basically operate till point A, where the profit is at price P or P1, and P1 they will earn economic rent or economic profit. And at point A in monopoly market, it goes to a king demand. Demand rises, but at a lower price of P2. So there will be some producer who will produce this at a price of P2. And that is an opportunity for rest of the world, at least for next 4 or 5 years, when till the time they do not catch up the technology to capitalize in this area in a monopoly market. But the issue will be that America will not have price advantage, cost advantage, and that advantage can be harnessed by China and rest of the world. Okay, for the lower end of the microprocessor, the market will behave like perfect competition. And in perfect competition, economic profit is earned only at the short term, in the short run, and in the long run, only normal profit can be earned. So in perfectly competitive market, for example, standard microprocessor, which are being made in many countries, that market will stay perfectly competitive. So this market will have two shapes. One part will be monopolistic, another part will be perfectly competitive. And this you are already observing in mobile markets. So in mobile market, Apple has clear monopoly because of consumer preference, their design and their innovation. And the rest of the market is almost of perfect competition. Now, these are the most innovative countries in the world, and according to the innovation index. And you can see that USA is not #1 in innovation, but not very far away as well, because the #1 is Switzerland, which is 65%, and #3 US is 61.3%. US competitive advantage is based on innovation. Yes, true. But it is more based on commercialization, their ability to commercialize technological ideas. And in that context, they purchase intellectual property rights from Swedish organizations, from Switzerland, and they commercialize it in their own country. And why US has that ability to commercialize? Because they have population of 300 million people, and that too with the average of 70,000 US dollar per capita, or even more. I have not checked the last figure. So post chips and science global and US market will be like this. Chips market is divided into 3 areas: fab, fabless, and assembling. Fab is basically fabrication, terminology used in chips manufacturing, and fabless is basically research and development. And research and development will be dominated by US, China, and Taiwan. It seems that these three countries will continue to innovate in this market, but in different areas. In fabrication, US will also innovate. And in fabless market, that is in research and design market, there are more contenders, and those are US, Europe, Japan, and China. And in assembler market, basically it will be US and China. Taiwan, I believe it will continue to focus on wafers manufacturing, wafers on which microprocessors are aged. So Taiwan will continue to focus on that. Now, this is the strategic map which seems to happen in future. And for this strategic map, I have used Michael Porter's strategies. Michael Porter basically says there are three major strategies which different companies follow. Number one is differentiation. They differentiate their product so that they may charge premium. These companies follow the principle of differentiation. And there may be focus. Focus may be on low cost and focus may be best value. And focus is basically on a small segment to serve. And that small segment may be automotive, maybe calculators, maybe other consumer products. So different countries may focus on developing special purpose microprocessors and microcontrollers so that they may isolate profitability and protect that segment efficiently. And focus may be low cost as well as best value. So when there is best value, then it will be a better market with better price. And when the focus is on low cost, then it is mostly based on efficiency of the production. And the third strategy is cost leadership, which will be followed by China, Indonesia, and Vietnam, and they will focus on the lower end of the market. And for the cost leadership, best value, US, China, and Europe will be focusing on this cost leadership strategy. So this strategy seems why I have articulated these strategies here, because traditionally these countries are following these strategies, and US has made this law to strengthen its differentiation strategy. So US will come out as a winner by following differentiation strategy. And what will happen in US market? In US market, pre-CHIPS era, prior to this act, their focus of fabrication, there was not a focus on fabrication. They were outsourcing it. Low-end jobs, they were outsourcing. That's why their number of employees is low and their efficiency is higher. And high-end jobs, they were insourcing through remote work and through working in their own country. But in post-CHIPS era, their fabrication will be insourced compared to outsourced in the past. And low and medium end jobs will be outsourced. Prior to this, they were only outsourcing lower end jobs, but now they will outsource medium end jobs because there is a serious skill shortage in manufacturing area in America because of the strategies they have been following since 1990 and beyond. And high-end jobs, they will of course do insourcing, and that is the purpose of this Chips and Science Act. Now I will focus on this post-Chips and Science global business era. And this will cover what is going to happen in the market. First thing is that this act will disrupt market. Why this will disrupt market? Because lot of manufacturing which was previously happening in China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Korea, Taiwan and other countries, now it is going back to USA. So there will be market disruption, market dynamism will change before stability will be ensured. There will be technological disruption as well, to the disadvantage of the lower end players and to the advantage of higher end players. There is a possibility of supply chain disruption as well. Why there is a possibility of supply chain disruption? Because different countries will be focusing on manufacturing different microprocessor, and as a result, there may be shortages and surpluses or controls by governments which may cause supply chain disruption. So this act is not going to improve supply chain disruption for the rest of the world and even for USA. And more important part is differential pricing, which will be practiced by many manufacturer, particularly those who are focusing differentiation strategy. And differential pricing is different prices for different markets. This is not a new practice. This is already being practiced in medicine market. So this will be practiced in this high-tech market as well. Different prices for different countries, different regions. And there is also a possibility of market imperfection. And when there will be market imperfection, then cartel and monopoly-like behavior will be observed. World will be back on protective era, and that is a shock to the rest of the world. Why? So why there will be, since USA is pursuing this protection, so other countries will also take similar measures, and that will transfer as in a result of higher cost to consumers. The regulatory framework will also change, and retaliatory measures are also expected. Jobs will be created. Jobs will be created both in US and outside USA. There will be a structural unemployment. It means people will be unemployed in some part of the world, and there will be shortage of similar people in other part of the world. And business processes will change because America will relearn the art of manufacturing. So business process will be remodeled. Especially this, I would like to mention Maquiladora region, which is between Mexico and US, and this region will grow for manufacturing. Because for US companies, the advantage of being there in Maquiladora region is that they enjoy the benefit of low cost wages of Mexico and benefit of US laws. And one more thing may happen, not in near future, but it is ultimately going to happen. How Japan responded in automotive market, that they basically joined hand with Toyota, joined hand with Ford Motors to get free access to the US market. And this will happen in this industry as well, not in near future, but in next 5 years. Now, what is it in it for Pakistan? And I have a very good news for Pakistani people. And this news was published in Dawn only yesterday, that Google is going to spend $30 billion in 15,000 to create 15,000 Google career certificates, and that too for free. They will award scholarship to Pakistani youths, and 15,000 youths can take advantage of those courses in these areas. These are the identified areas in which there is shortage of workforce. There will remain shortage of workforce in US market. And this is a note from a human resource manager. And global headhunters are now seriously looking for Pakistani talent, just because they have recently explored that Pakistani talent is much better compared to talent anywhere in the world, particularly at the higher end. So now they are focusing on Pakistani talent. So this is an opportunity for Pakistanis to work from home for multinational companies, and they need to get connected with the right global headhunters, and they should have right certifications as well. Google has already offered these certifications in Pakistan. So who will be net beneficiary after this law? It is a bit complicated. It is quite complicated, in fact. For example, Walmart is a US company. It is a $600 billion company. It earns profit of $15 billion, but more than 50% of the products on the shelves of Walmart are from China. So they are also beneficiaries of that supply chain, despite the fact that Walmart is typically a US-based company. So this will remain so in other segments in the market. So thank you very much, and appreciate for the time and your patience.
वो कर दो माशाल्लाह बहुत अच्छा एक्सप्लेन वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इनकी शाबाशी दे दो
Thank you, Ashmi Saab. It was a wonderful presentation, a very comprehensive presentation, and I'm sure Pakistanis will benefit from the last slide, especially that we need to work on this, and we need to immediately capitalize and learn and immediately capture the market. Now, I would request.
Hashmi Saab, I congratulate you. Excellent presentation. Very much edified.
Thank you, sir. And so nice of you. Your appreciation means a lot to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.